as much as the general progress at this point of society is very, very good. We are much more open-minded as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
There, especially the younger generations for sure. Millennials, yes, of course. Um, there's a lot of growth with believing that sexism is a problem and that it should be solved. There are still people that are going to cling to the traditional whatever women should be in the kitchen. That's whatever. It's something that people are going to cling to, and it's something that, as much as that is still a problem and that is an issue, all the people that say those things that are like, yeah, women belong in the kitchen, until they are making a woman actually go in the kitchen, and until a woman actually agrees to sit and go in the kitchen,
Right.
it isn't a problem. You
Okay.
know what I mean? That's not the issue as much as the issue is when it plays into everyday life for a woman and a man.
Okay.
When men feel that they need to filter the way that they act around women, and when women feel that they need to filter the way that they act around men.
Well, that's how all social constructs are created, though.
Yes. I'm not saying like no filter in that sense, but at the same time, when I don't know, when women operate under a fear of men, and women operate under a sense of having like a more dominant position in a social exchange.
Okay.
You know?
So
and we got that with like tips at restaurants.
You just broke up. Hey,
stuff
restate that.
like that.
Restate that. You just broke up.
Okay. I said we kind of talked about that last time with like tips at restaurants, how women have to kind of cater to the like whatever the man decides that he will set the tone of the table to, if it's like a whatever, like a business meeting with men. And so if they're gonna treat, one of my friends told me, she was like, if they treat me like I'm stupid, then I'm gonna play stupid, because that's gonna be more likely to make me money. If they're going to treat me like I am, or if they're gonna like flirt with me, like, yeah, I might flirt back because that'll make me more money. If I'm gonna do whatever, they set the tone for however she's gonna act.
Right, and I hate to say it this way, but that construct goes along with men too. I mean, that's not only just a female, I guess, 100%. Personality.
No, it started with men, like, that just by nature. I'm not gonna take that away, but at the same time, like, a lot of the people that want to solve the issue are not men.
Hey, Kaylor says, "What game is this? White Women Simulator?" Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry.
All right, bye, Jordan. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. But you said something earlier about openness and how you believe that might be a good thing. Is there a problem with having too much openness, do you think, in society, in culture in general?
I think people forget that decisions are things that still need to happen. Like, if you have too much openness, you end up saying like, oh, I just don't really care about that. Like, it's just not something that like matters to me because it doesn't pertain to me. Like, and you just have that kind of like outlook towards it. Like, you should at least have your own developed thing, what you think is right and wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when I say openness, I mean openness as to, you should be open to understanding how other people think, but you should also be open to developing your own chain of thought. And that's the part of it that I stress more than anything, is just like, keep your thoughts open. Don't close your thoughts off to the point where you get so stuck in your view and develop. Because me, like, oh my gosh, I changed. Like, I can't tell you, like, this time last year, I was with a boyfriend, I was really unhappy, I was depressed, and I was really, really, really letting my life fall apart. Shit changes. You know what I mean? So, like, if I had stuck with that, like, I've probably stuck with that for maybe 3-4 months this year. And the rest of the year, I struggled to open my own thoughts and, like, figure out how to properly think about things to where they made sense.
Right.
And I don't know, just being open enough to give yourself that clarity.
Right. And I think that's an important thing to know, is especially with today, a lot of people want to. So we have a house right now, okay, and a lot of people notice that the house is crumbling and it needs to be fixed. Some people want to burn that house down entirely just to build up a new construct. And I'm at the position where I'm like, all right, well, hey, let's see. We don't have to burn the entire house down, okay? Let's figure out what in the house works in terms of culture, in terms of rules that we can all engage by, because that's basically what we're doing. We're all trying to figure out subconsciously, how can I communicate with you? What is a correct cultural, cultural behavior that you and I can express so that way we can actually live, in harmony. I mean, we're social creatures. So I'm more or less, the house is crumbling. All right, cool. We understood that, but I don't want to burn the house down, but we need to replace the parts. Yeah. Okay, we need to replace these parts and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, you're talking about like reform versus
complete chaos and anarchy.
No, there's like 6 different types, or no, there might be 4 different types of. There might be 6 different types of social movements, and it's like the different approaches to it. So there's when you approach it and you try to restructure everything. So you try to tear something down and restart it the way that you want it. Right. So think about like radical feminists. And when I say radical feminists, I do mean the people that are like.
All right. Well, so this is actually good because Dell just asked, what do you know of an experience of people wanting to burn the house down? So you're about to go into radical feminism. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So radical feminists, and I'm not saying that every radical feminist shares this view.
Right. Right.
I also like if you are a radical feminist. Sorry, one of my friends just called me. She's gonna call me again. I guarantee it. If you are a radical feminist, like. You're
yeah. Hey, popular.
Yeah. Okay. If you're a radical feminist, I understand. I understand the motivation, but the way to solve sexism is not to have women overthrow men and then develop a matriarchy. That is not the solution.
Right.
Because what will happen is a similar thing with the power struggles. And as much as a lot of women actually do believe that is a better solution, I'm not one of them. I think that there is a harmony that can exist between the sexes that I think has to do with a lot how people are able to interpret their contexts in their everyday life.
Right.
And how they are able to determine which contexts need a filtered gender expression and which ones do not. So in a romantic situation, yeah, you're going to have a filtered gender expression, like no matter what gender you fall into along that spectrum. Right. You will have because sex is a gendered thing. Relationships and romance, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific gender to gender thing, but it is something that like the act of actual sex is a like sexual thing. So you know what I mean? Like you have to filter yourself in that way to some extent. Like not necessarily filter is a weird word, but you have to express yourself in a certain way.
I get it.
Whereas in a work environment, it doesn't have to. You shouldn't have to necessarily act one way if you're a woman at work, and you shouldn't necessarily have to act one way if you're a man at work. What it does, and I don't say that in a like you shouldn't choose to act that way. I'm saying that in it causes men and women to become very narrow-minded in what they're able to do with their lives.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
What they're capable of as people, what they feel confident in as their capabilities. Like if you look at early child care education, the number of men in it is like maybe like 4%, maybe 2% or something like that. It's like a tiny number of men go into early child care education because of the societal stipulations around masculinity and taking care of young children.
Right. So yeah, and I'm completely obviously I understand the whole gender concepts and gender roles and toxic masculinity and you know what gender roles we should fall into as a masculine man, and obviously I don't fit a lot of those because you know I've developed my whole life helping others, you know, dealing with special needs, literally caregiving. So I wouldn't fall into a general typical.
You would be in a non-male dominated field.
Right. So I think um, and I like what you were saying about the matriarchy taking over the patriarchy, and um, how we shouldn't just burn down one hierarchy in support or in favor of another. We need to kind of figure out how to live in harmony, and that's basically what we're doing with this channel, is figuring out, you know, how can both sides of the equation live in harmony and figure out what the hell is going on. I mean, that's partially why I brought up the incel movement earlier, because they want to tear down the whole social construct of dating and figure out, fuck, fuck having sex. Like that's not even built into our genes anymore, according to Darwinism. But you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
lol.
yeah. A field is actually dominated by men when you consider who has the power and money. Women dominate the caregiving roles. I'm talking about the general, not actually dominated by men. I'm talking about the actual role around caregiving. I wouldn't be considered, caregiving is not considered a masculine trait. Huh?
Psychology, like educationally, psychology is a male or is a female dominated.
No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about our special needs field. What we do. Yeah.
I would actually need to look that up.
The caregiving roles, which he's right, the caregiving roles are mainly dominated by women.
Yeah. Caregiving roles are generally women, but it's like, I think special needs care falls under like nursing and healthcare. On like, I'm thinking of this one
right
stuff that I looked at or that I wrote a freaking paper on.
So the real question is, and that I have, is how much of, you know, these caregiving roles